to Live. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight during this wonderful holiday season. My name is Aurea McGarry, and I'm your host this evening with a wonderful lineup of guests you are not going to want to miss. We've got beautiful, joyful piano playing tonight by the famous and infamous, coming back, Jeff Cleghorn is back. You're going to absolutely love all the Christmas music this evening. And on top of that, we have some wonderful pastors coming in to talk about prayer, healing, forgiveness, demons, a lot of really good content tonight that you're not going to want to miss. But if you do miss it, you can always go on WATC.tv and watch it on our website, on Roku, on Facebook to get that and share with a friend. And don't forget, the prayer lines are open right now at 770-300-9828. Call, because you know what? You are not alone. We're here to pray with you, praise reports with you, to rejoice and to cry with you whenever needed. We are here as a ministry to help you through good days and bad days. So don't forget to use that prayer line throughout the show. And I'm so blessed and honored to be able to bring you this holiday edition tonight with Christmas music that's going to lift your soul, lift your spirits, because we never want to forget the reason for the season, which is to praise Jesus on the day that he was born in Bethlehem. So now, without any further ado, Jeff Cleghorn is going to present with us Christmas Medley and Joy to the World on the piano. Take it away, Jeff. Wow, Jeff, you can play. I absolutely love that. If that didn't get you in the holiday spirit, I don't know what will. But I am so excited about his brand new CD, "'Tis the Season, Jesus is the Reason" by Jeff Cleghorn. You go to jeffcleghorn.com and get your copy of this amazing, fabulous holiday CD to hear his piano playing in the car, in the house. I just love it. So thank you, Jeff. Jeff will be back, so don't go away. He'll be playing throughout this entire show to keep you in the holiday spirit. But now I'm going to bring on my very first guest, who is the founder of Restored to Freedom in Carmel, a healing ministry. And we're going to talk about some really serious issues, but nothing that is too hard for God. Welcome to the show, Nelson.
Thank you.
So glad you're here. And this is not your first time, so you've been here before to share your ministry and your message and what you're doing. But some of the viewers out there may have never met you before. So let's lay the groundwork before we get into some really serious things you're going to tell us about. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Okay. So I grew up in Indiana. Started out going to a Church of God, then I went to a Presbyterian church, then more of a Pentecostal church, then Assembly of God, then non-denominational. So I've got my share of different denominations and non-denominations. And when I was growing up, I was always told that, okay, when you are a Christian, you can't have demons. You know, there's no way that you can have demons and be a Christian at the same time. And then ended up going through some personal experiences in a marriage, as well as with other people that are in the church. And I saw some behavior that really wasn't consistent with the fruit of the Spirit.
Well, back up just for a second to clarify for the viewers. You say you can't have demons. I know you don't mean have them over for dinner. Do you mean possession or oppression? Because I remember back in the day when I first became Christian, I remember I was taught that if you're spirit-filled, you can be oppressed by the demons, but not possessed. Tell us what.
Yeah, I mean, most from what my remembrance of growing up was that they didn't even say that you could be oppressed by a demonic spirit. And so through my experiences of seeing behavior where, you know, people could pray in tongues, they could prophesy, but they could also be very, very mean and have heart intentions that were really evil. And the fruit of the Spirit really wasn't where they were exhibiting that behind closed doors. They could do it in front of the church, they could do it in front of family members, but then once they became, you know, private behind closed doors, they could actually turn into a different person where they would be mean and they would say words that were just really evil, that were not uplifting whatsoever. That if you read about Galatians 5:16 through 26, it talks about a lot of the fruit of the flesh. A lot of it is sexual impurity, jealousy, envy, you know, wrath, being very angry, and all this stuff. And it says you're not going to inherit the kingdom of God if you have behavior like that. And then it goes on and talks about the fruit of the Spirit.
You know them by their fruits, not by what they
Love,
say.
joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, you know, self-control, gentleness, being gentle. So when that didn't line up, I was questioning in my mind, why is that? You know, and why is the divorce rate within the church was about 50%, is what I was told. You know, and why is that? Why aren't people in the church all getting along, loving each other? You know, it didn't jive with me. So going through those experiences, eventually the Lord finally showed me some things about how the church does need deliverance. The church does need their soul healed, because Satan's after their soul, but so is God. And I didn't even know what a soul was. Now I've learned that a soul is our mind, which is our thoughts, our will, free will to choose, and our emotions. And so a lot of people that get their wounds when they're growing up, they get hurt when they're growing up from their father, from their mother, sexual violations, pornography. About 50% of pastors struggle with pornography. Well, if they're wounded, if they were shown that when they were growing up, then oftentimes they struggle throughout the rest of their lives, because the church doesn't do a very good job of explaining how to get healed from those wounds, how to get delivered from the demonic spirits, so they can actually have a lot of good thoughts coming from the Lord versus a lot of negative thoughts coming in from the enemy.
How do you know when somebody is oppressed or possessed, or just dealing with human, you know, troubles and where it's not? We know that all that it comes from the devil, and we are in some way being battered and bombarded. But how do you know when you really need to have that deliverance from it, that it's a real problem in that nature?
Yeah, I would say the majority of people are going to be oppressed. It just means that a lot of their thoughts are coming from the enemy, from the demonic spirits. How that happens is if you were hurt when you're growing up, say you're a 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old girl or boy, and you get some harsh words spoken to you by your father, by your mother, or someone shows you some pornography or touches you, then that will give legal rights to the enemy, because what will happen is you will think about those words that were spoken to you over and over again, and then the enemy, the demonic spirits, will also chime in, giving you other thoughts to believe in, causing you to have anger and bitterness for the people that hurt you. And that gives legal rights to the demonic spirits to continue to speak to you.
Does it always have to happen when you're a child, or can this happen when you're older as well?
It can happen when you're older, but when you're older, you tend to be able to handle it better because you're an adult now. So you can protect yourself if someone tries to molest you and so forth. But I've done thousands of sessions with people around the world, and the majority of them are going to get hurt when they're younger, when they can't protect themselves, from their uncle, could be their father and mother, could be the neighbor, could be their grandparent. Oftentimes it's people that they know, sometimes it's a stranger. But that's all it takes. If a child, say, is touched, then they don't know what to do about it. Oftentimes they're threatened. You better not tell anybody or I'm going to hurt you. So they carry around all these wounds, and then the demonic spirits have legal rights because that person remembers those bad things that happened to them. And they have a lot of anger and bitterness and unforgiveness that gives legal rights to the enemy.
And you're saying legal rights to enemies. So what about as parents, as Christian parents, and we dedicate our children to the Lord, maybe they're spirit-filled. What does that protection do? Does that help in any way?
What I have seen, I'll give an example. There was a girl, she's in College Station, Texas, grew up in a Christian home, and went on a youth trip to Colorado. One of the youth leaders there touched her sexually. And then when she came back home, she was like 10 years old at the time, came back home, and her personality changed because of what happened to her. She remembered all that, and she got really mad and really angry, and she could hear a lot of demonic thoughts. So they took her to the doctors. The doctors didn't know about deliverance, so therefore they were like, well, put her on this medication. They took her through psychiatric care.
Did they know what happened to her?
They knew what happened to her,
so she
absolutely.
Didn't keep quiet.
Yeah,
okay.
She didn't keep quiet. She told what happened, but nothing worked because they couldn't take away the legal rights of these demonic spirits because she was angry and she was bitter at what happened to her. And so when I actually came to her to their home, I actually prayed for her. She was 12 at the time. And her mom told me that earlier that week, she wrote a paper at school in which she was going to dismember the body parts of her mom. She wrote that in the paper. And she treated her younger brother, harshly and mean. He was a couple years younger. So when I went to her specific home, I was able to pray for her. I do have an anointing and understanding of how to do this with a child. Prayed and just simply commanded the enemy to be gone from her, and it left. And then later that day, within hours, she was holding her mom's hand, going to the park, being sweet and normal like she used to be before all that. When she came back, she wanted to actually look at the baby album, the photo album of when her brother was younger. But she completely changed. So there's that, there's the young kids, but then there's the adults. The larger share that I deal with is the adults when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and older, and they have been hurt when they were young, and then they made all these bad decisions after that. Oftentimes people, I'd say 85, 90% of people have been sexually either shown pornography or touched when they were younger, and they never really get over it because they remember that the enemy has legal rights, and then they struggle with sexual purity.
So tell us how you got into this, how this became your ministry in your life.
Yeah, it was essentially the Lord had me marry a woman that was very, very much hurt when she was growing up. And the Lord basically was speaking to me before I married her, said that I would love her like Christ loved the church. And I didn't know what that would mean. I was like, well, that sounds great. And then when we got married, then essentially on the wedding night and thereafter, she would manifest on me, which I didn't know what manifesting was. But essentially, it was pretty strong, where she would get really mad, get really angry, trigger. She would get triggered because she wasn't healed from the wounds she had when she was growing up, from her dad, from her mom, and some sexual stuff that happened to her. So it was part of my training, basically, is I had to go through it. I couldn't tell anybody about it. It lasted for 6 years, and it was pretty intense. I had knives thrown at me, glasses thrown at me, but she could pray in tongues, she could prophesy, she could act in front of the church like she was very godly. But then behind closed doors, I saw this that did not match up with a really godly woman. I didn't know what was going on, and the Lord didn't really tell me. He just said, trust me, and eventually you will end up working with people around the world. But you have to have some training, and experience is always the best.
So that was your on-the-job training.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. So
Absolutely.
what happened? How did you get trained out of that and on to where you are now?
Out of that, again, I didn't know anything about demons other than I saw the behavior. And eventually the Lord said, he gave her time to repent, to get freed from this. She refused to.
Okay.
And then he finally said, who are you going to serve, the demonic spirits in her or me? You have to choose. You can't if you choose to serve the demonic spirits in her and she refuses to get delivered because she has a free will to choose if she wants to get freed or not. And so I said, well, I got to choose you, And he said, well, I will take you into this ministry now because you have all this experience. Because there's a whole bunch of other people out there in the world that are in the church that are manifesting on their spouses.
You talked about, in the beginning of our conversation, you talked about 50% of the church get a divorce, just like the outside world as well. Mm-hmm. And now you're in this marriage, mm-hmm. and now you're going to get a divorce. Mm-hmm. And talk to the people about that, because so many might be so relating to what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But stuck in it thinking, divorce is not of God. I've got to stick with it, that mm-hmm. I'm blessing them and I can help them. Especially mm-hmm. women, I find it's more the other way around usually, that women are thinking, I can help them, I can fix them, I can mm-hmm. pray them through this. So mm-hmm. talk to us about what that was like, that you were still serving God and able to get free from this without the guilt, or did you have guilt?
Yeah, it came down to the free will, that she had to choose to get healed or delivered. And when finally I learned what she was struggling with, which if people understand the Jezebel spirit, or the spirit of Jezebel, that is exactly what happens with people that are hurt and wounded very deeply. The psychological community would oftentimes call them a narcissist and said that there's no hope for them to ever change. But that's what my ministry does now. We do get people healed and set free and delivered. So for people that are struggling, where you'll see this in probably 85% of marriages in the church, where you have one person that's more controlling, more demanding, wanting their own way, that will marry a person that has more of a mercy heart, a loving heart, a gifting heart. And so they'll come together in the majority of marriages that you'll see. Some are really, really controlling, really, really bad. But abuse doesn't have to be physical or sexual. It just has to be a person that puts you down over and over again and never lets you choose to do things that you would want to do that are good. Things maybe that are from the Lord, that they'll say, nope, not going to let you serve on the music team. I'm not going to let you serve on the intercessory team. So they want to control. It's because the demonic spirits in them want to control. That Jezebel spirit, which is real, 1 Kings and 2 Kings, and also Revelation 2, 18 through 23, it says in Revelations that I'll give her time to repent, but she refuses. So I'll put her on a sickbed and kill her children. And again, men have Jezebel, women have Jezebel, and it's because of their wounds. They got hurt deeply when they're growing up. So what the Lord will do, and this is how I instruct people, is say, give them the truth. The truth will set them free. Mm-hmm. Allow them to understand that they are that way, controlling and mean, even though they oftentimes don't see it. They'll blind themselves. There's a spirit called Leviathan. It's in Job 41. Verse 34 says it's king over all the children of pride. So people that get hurt and get wounded will have pride come in that will cause them never to admit that they're doing anything wrong, and then shift the blame to the person that's the true victim in that relationship. And so the Lord wants to give them time to repent. So I advise people that are in those situations to let their spouse who's controlling and manipulative either watch some of our testimonies from people around the world that have gotten healed, set free, and delivered, or we have my latest book, Freedom from Soul Wounds. Yeah, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons, that will help them to actually see what they're struggling with and then humble themselves so that they can forgive the people that hurt them, which takes away the legal rights of the demons. They can then command the demons to go, and they can have a lot more peace. They have to humble themselves. You have to be honest. So there's some things that they have to do. They can't have their spouse that's being hurt and abused simply come up to them and command the demons to be gone. Just like Jesus couldn't get the Pharisees and the scribes, their pride that they had, the jealousy for him, that they hated him, he couldn't just come up and override their free will and command the demons to go. Right. We don't have the free will. We don't have the authority to override someone else's free will.
And if somebody, it sounds like this could also be a potentially dangerous situation, again, especially for women that are maybe watching or read your book and they feel empowered to say, okay, now this is making sense, and they're getting the aha moment. Mm-hmm. What do you suggest for them? We only have a few more minutes left, and could talk to you forever about how they can do that safely.
Yes.
So, do you help people do this safely? Do they call their pastor? Well, not everybody's going to understand this. Not every pastor that you're going to call is going to no. So they might just, send them the wrong way. So talk
I'll
to us
say
about
this,
that.
is I've seen women that are being controlled by the abusive husbands. Oftentimes they get sicker and sicker and sicker the longer that they're in that relationship when that person doesn't change.
Right.
Because those demons know that they can verbally come against that person to where they simply don't want to live anymore.
Yeah, and if they go up and stand up to him and say, you're possessed, you're this,
then they'll
that could
punch
be-
them and
right.
they could be violent with them, absolutely. So that's why it's so critical for a pastor that they go to understand this. And then they need to actually have a meeting where they actually can have that discussion with them, understanding that people that have Jezebel are going to lie.
How do
They're
they
very
find
good at lying.
somebody that understands? Because this is probably not, on every corner or at every church. Can you help everybody?
We do have a website that has people that have been certified under our ministry that can help people get healed and delivered.
Okay.
Of course, I have all the time. I'm dealing with people where I'm doing sessions with couples, trying to help them privately get set free and delivered.
What's your website?
It's restoredtofreedom.com.
Okay.
RESTOREDTO freedom.com.
Wonderful. Okay, so they can get in touch with you that way. So what's next for you? Where are you going now? We have a couple of minutes. What do you want the viewers to make sure they know for help? Because I see this is not something they want to do alone.
No.
It's something they need help, they need support.
They do need help and support, absolutely. They need to find someone that understands the spiritual realm, that understands the demonic. And of course, if they have a pastor that totally doesn't believe in this, then unfortunately there's not much recourse that they have. Now they can come to our ministry, and I will try to, what I do is I take a person through a soul wound healing session. So those that are the most hurt and wounded, normally the most aggressive and controlling and manipulative, when I take them through a session, if they're willing to go through one, we just go back to their life and say, what are some of the worst things that happened to you? How did your father treat you? How did your mother? Any sexual stuff that happened? And then we have Jesus come to speak to them about that so they can truly forgive, which takes away the legal rights of the demons. Then we command the demons to go. Then the person changes. Their personality changes. They're nice. They have the fruit of the Spirit. So love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. So there's a chance, obviously. We want to save the marriage. That's our whole goal.
Right.
But if a person's being abused over and over and over again, then they can die. I've had people that I know that have stayed in the marriage too long and died, or their hair fell out, all kinds of bad things.
Well, I know that 3 women a day die at the hands of somebody who supposedly loves them, so that's bad enough. You have been so enlightening. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Your book, I'm sure it will start off the journey, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons. This is a great book for them to get to start the process and to go to your website. We appreciate you so much for starting this conversation. It's not easy to have.
Thank you.
Hope you come back.
Okay.
And now we're going to get back to more of our wonderful holiday music with Jeff Cleghorn, who's going to tickle those ivories again for us to uplift you with some holiday cheer, holiday spirit, and it's going to be a holly jolly Christmas and the birthday of a king. Jeff, take it away again. Jeff, you're absolutely so blessed and talented. If you want more of Jeff Cleghorn, his CD is out, jeffcleghorn.com. It's absolutely amazing. He's got beautiful music, beautiful CDs coming out to churches maybe near you. If you invite him, he just might come. Absolutely talented and blessed. Oh my gosh, that's the way to bring in the holiday season. And now my next guest is a wonderful pastor. He is the pastor of Church of the King, Steve Robinson. He's also an author, and he's got some wonderful things to share with us about how he has changed his mindset since the COVID and a whole lot more. So without further ado, welcome to the stage, Steve Robinson.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. You know, it's interesting what you say is how I think part of the Christian life is change and being open up to what God is wanting to do in our heart. And quite honestly, in learning to pivot and sensing what is necessary to change. And really as a pastor, all of us, the last 18 months, 2 years, really the earth, people have been experiencing with COVID challenges we've never faced before. I mean, I think it's 100 years since the last pandemic. So as a pastor, when we were faced with this, what do we do? How do we connect with people? You know, Ray, I've never had the challenge of not being able to preach to and talk to the people every week that call me pastor. And so speaking of change, what took place was, now I want to just kind of confess this up front. Prior to COVID, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't on Facebook.
Oh, you were the one that wasn't on it.
Yes, I was. No, that's right. Now everybody is, but I wasn't on social media. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on Facebook. And it just was something, quite honestly, at times I even made fun of it. Man, people, you know, it's kind of grandstanding. But what I realized when COVID took place as a pastor, I didn't have the ability to communicate with our people. For 3 months, we didn't have church. And so we jumped on. I was able to get on Instagram and Facebook. Secondly, now this is another confession here, okay? I know I'm a pastor, you know, but we've had Church of the King is a multi-site church based in New Orleans. But now we're in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, throughout the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and now, which I'll talk about in a moment, in Peachtree City, right here in the greater Atlanta area. But every year, right in the beginning of the year, in January, I'd look into the camera and I'd say, all of you that are home watching online, you need to be in the house of God, which I still believe.
Right.
But and in a sense, I would really challenge them. This is pre-COVID.
Sure.
And but after COVID, I was so grateful for online.
Yes, you were challenging them to come into the church and out of their house.
I was like, man, if you're in your bed, if you're watching me this morning, man, you need to be in God's house, which I still believe. The Bible talks about, look, don't forsake the assembling, but we know for health reasons, people weren't able to go, right? For a lot of reasons. And so I was so grateful. So number one, I jumped on social media. Number two, our church, with Church of the King, we really valued and jumped in and really refined our online programming. And three, we had some older people that would email me and say, Pastor, you know what, I don't like the computer and online, would you go on TV? So we did that. So our campuses in Baton Rouge area, all over New Orleans, the greater New Orleans area, and in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we jumped on TV. So that's how Church of the King Peachtree City was kicked off. We had some people, matter of fact, we had a couple that was on staff. The wife was on staff at our church in New Orleans for about 7 years. And they were a great couple. I mean, full of energy and life. During COVID, they weren't able to go to church. And they'd always stayed connected to us, watching us, but it was through online. And they started gathering some of their friends in the home, and then they had another home and another. And so they reached out to us, and we stayed connected with them.
Sure.
Amazing couple. And they asked us, would you guys open, I remember the conversation, would you guys consider opening a campus in the Atlanta area? And so, long story made short, we've now kicked off Church of the King, Peachtree City, right there. It's called the Atlanta South Campus, right in McIntosh High School. So it's great. So that's what technology did. Social media, TV, all that. Why? Because we wanted to get the message out. and stay connected to people. So kind of crazy.
I love it. If we could only get you a little excited about what was happening, we'd be in good shape. So I love that. I love your enthusiasm. And I love that you confess that, hey, I was skeptical. I didn't like this. And we have to pivot. We have to have different mindsets through different areas of our life, throughout all sorts of things. This one just happened to be a major worldwide thing that happened that was something that was trying to keep us all away from church. But we found a way to stay connected. I'm so glad we did. Yes, do we want to be physically in church, be able to do the hugs? Of course. But the next best thing, this was a way that God was able to use this to say the internet can be used for bad, but it can be used for so much good. And I'm a big internet social media person, and I love that. I think it's part of God's, prophecies and revelation that all will have heard the gospel. How are we going to get into the far-off places? We can't go by foot, but we can go by the airwaves, TV, radio, podcast, and social media. So now tell us what's happening, because you're awful excited about a lot of things. That's not the only thing that happened.
The thing about it is, and again, very painful time. We know that.
Yes.
For everyone, real concerns. But we always have to make a choice. Life is filled with pain, and maybe it's not on the the global level of a crisis like this, but on a personal level. So we always have to pivot. And as a pastor, and I just want to encourage pastors, let's take this as an opportunity to be able to reach more people, and that's what we did.
Definitely.
And also, even in my personal life, we had to make decisions. Are we going to get? And here it is. Are we going to get bitter? And there's so many things we can complain about, right? And by the way, and I want to say that on social media, a light encouragement. Let's not use a tool to reach people. And I would say that to Christians, because the world is watching. They're peering into the social media of pastors and Christians. And if they go on our outlets, our platforms, or online, and we're criticizing and complaining rather than constructively, preaching God's word, sharing the hope, praying with people. That's where everything, social media is a tool. TV is a tool, right? Online platform, it's a tool. We can use it for good, or we can use it for bad. And I tell you what happened also. This is pretty crazy. During COVID, churches shut down. A lot of people emailing, talking about what can we do. And a group of friends and I, Pastor Chris Hodges, Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, an amazing man of God, Pastor Dino Rizzo that runs the Ark, Pastor Jim LaFoon, who's a great man of God. We came together, and there was just such a great need to pray.
Yeah.
And there was great prayer. Look, let me tell you, a lot of people weren't in church for months, but I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of prayer going up.
No kidding.
So we had the privilege of starting something called Unite 714. And it was really crazy. It ended up becoming a global prayer movement. Here was our challenge: pray twice a day, 7:14 a.m., 7:14 p.m. We wrote prayers. And
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I just have to start. That is such a great idea. Unite 7:14. 7:14, when you have all these people praying at one time, twice a day.
That's right.
How powerful that must be.
Look, we would tell people, put it on your watch, put it on your phone.
It's your alarms.
So you're reminded. We wrote prayers. And I tell you, we culminate, there was an event right in Pentecost weekend. It's the end of May 2020. So we'd been about 3 months in the pandemic. And it was just amazing. We had about 10 million people around the world participate.
Online?
Yes. Well, no, they were online. We had TV networks all over the world, and it was amazing. Listen, the Bible talks about the power of prayer, but there's something about if one can put 1,000, there it is. Two can put what? 10,000. So there's a collective power in prayer. The prayer of agreement. That's why I tell couples all the time, look, marriages struggle. I said, you begin to pray with your spouse. It's hard to stay mad at someone you're praying with. Same thing in a church. You show me a church that prays together, a couple that prays together. You show me churches and communities that begin to pray. Well, let's expand it out. You show me networks of churches, denominations, and that's really what Unite. It was based upon 2 Chronicles 7:14. Look, there's so many problems in the world right now. What is God doing? God's looking to his church. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, call out to God, then God will come. And that's what the basis was. By the way, on a personal level. So prayer, let me tell you, when you can't do a lot of things during COVID, pray, and then pray some more.
I love your enthusiasm. I just have to say, you are all lit up. I mean, it's contagious. It's building the faith, building the hope, getting us all uplifted, which is what we need. Because this time of year can also be depressing for so many people. So this, I hope, is really uplifting some of the people all the people that are watching to give them hope. But this Unite 714 is also a website, so keep on going.
You know what we do is, as well as we wrote a book last fall on simple prayer. because so many people were praying together collectively. And I wanted to help people on their personal prayer life. Here's what I found out, that a lot of people can have a passion to pray, but they lack the pattern to pray.
Ooh.
In other words, it's like, man, I want to pray. You get inspired, you go to church, the pastor, inspires you. You leave out there like, let's do it. And then the next morning it's like, what do I do? Right? God bless mommy, God bless, and so what I grew up as a kid reciting the Lord's Prayer in church and value the background that I had. And so I had great discipleship when I became a believer 30 years ago. And so what I did last fall, I wrote a book called Simple Prayer. It's based upon the Lord's Prayer. And so it gives you different topics of how to pray through. Why is that? Again, you can have a desire and a passion to pray, but you need a pattern to pray. There's lots of ways to pray to Jesus, right? But this is praying the Lord's Prayer. Luke chapter 11, the disciples came to Jesus. We call it the Lord's Prayer. It's actually a disciples' prayer.
Okay.
Jesus turns to them and he says, pray this way. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So what I did is I broke down the Lord's Prayer, and there's different sections in it. And so I encourage people, we want to equip people how to pray. So it's kind of this way. Church is shut down. We formed Unite 714. My buddies and I, it became a global movement of prayer. And then I wanted to teach people on a personal level how to pray. Again, you can have a passion to pray, but if you don't have a pattern to pray, there's lots of ways to pray. But I think this is a way. And so that's why we did Simple Prayer. I just wrote this a couple months ago.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you're not saying there's a right or wrong way to pray.
That's right.
You're saying that if you wake up, you're like, you don't know where to start, and you need a pattern. It's not like, this is the right, this is the wrong.
That's
it's
right.
like, let me help you get started. And before you know it, you'll be having conversations with God.
That's right.
You'll be talking to God. But it starts here. You got to start somewhere.
That's right.
So, because an overwhelmed mind does nothing.
That's right.
So I love that. And you give people also permission to have that conversation and to know, okay, I can start there. Because the key thing is to start.
That's right.
And then to keep going.
Well, we teach them in this book, prayer is not just a monologue, it's a dialogue, right?
Well, that's
Mono
important.
means one, di means two, like division, two visions. So prayer is us talking to God, but watch this, it's also positioning ourselves to hear from God. All of that's in the Lord's
powerful.
Prayer. Yeah.
That's
So so again, there's lots of, I learned the tabernacle prayer, all these different ways, but there's something, I'm always drawn to go back to the Lord's Prayer. So they can get this, if it can help people to be able to resource them. And so Simple Prayer, it's on my website, steverobinson.com.
Okay.
It's another thing, it's funny. Man, I said, I would never have my own website. Again, I've eaten my words. Never on social media, never on TV. I didn't like all that, but we've got to be able to get to people to help them. So
I love when God gets a hold of us and things we say,
and you got to
I
humble
would
yourself,
never.
by the way.
Yes.
You got to humble yourself.
He says that, doesn't he?
I'm learning to say, don't say never.
Never say never.
That's right.
And never pray for patience. We got all these little clues. But I love that because that's growth when we say, we'll never. And then God says, well, let me show you how.
Yeah.
And how to turn something you thought was bad into something good.
Right.
And then you also can relate to so many more people as well. Now you'll meet people on social media that would have never known you. Because we get into our little pods and our little circle and our little circumference, and God wants us to get out of that. He wants us to go throughout the world. And if that means we're sitting home on the internet and touching the world, then so be it, because we can't fly, we can't do this.
Right.
All right, it's like, I'll show you, devil. I'm going to do it anyway. We're just going to do it a different way.
That's it.
And be creative and be pivoting. So that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about what's happening now, because you still have some more time to tell us about the new church that's happening and what you see going forward in 2022.
Yeah, so what happened with us, again, I'll say this, Church of the King, again, I'm teaching in the New Orleans area, preaching, pastoring church. I planted the church 22 years ago. And again, multi-site, expanding, enjoying it. In COVID, bam, we're hit. But we just decided, pivot. Instead of retreating, we're not only going to build a prayer army, but we're also going to expand out. It was in that moment when we were called, we felt like it was a Macedonian call to come to the Atlanta area, Peachtree City. So out of that, this is crazy, but this is God. Virginia Beach, people are watching online. They're tying into the messages. Matter of fact, we've got something coming up I'm super pumped up about.
Even more excited?
Yes.
Let's get even more excited.
Listen, I've always been excited.
I love that.
Listen, by the way, can I tell you something about the word? Yeah, so enthusiasm, it's entheos, and it's actually, it means God within. Ooh. When you're filled with the Holy Spirit, God comes on the inside of you. So I don't know a Christian that can't be enthusiastic, right? I mean, because God's Spirit's it. But So we're doing a series, very excited about this. It's called Hope Again. It's kicking off after the first year. Our church will do it. We'll have about 10,000 people in our church doing it, about 1,000 small groups. And again, they can go to my website. They can go to churchoftheking.com, our church website. But we have a resource page there. But then on my website, steverobinson.com. Why am I excited about this? Hope Again, it's the first 8 chapters of the book of Romans, and it's about the gospel. Let me tell you something. People are confused like never before right now. There's so much confusion. They're hearing so many different voices. And so we're excited. We're bringing our church through what we call a community series every January, February. And so we're kicking this off. Hope Again, first 8 chapters of the book of Romans. I wrote a devotional on it, and people can get that. I am so passionate about getting the gospel. What the gospel is, a lot of people think the gospel is helping people. No, that's a result of the gospel.
Oh, I love
when
that,
you receive Christ, your heart's transformed. You're taken out of Adam, watch this, boom, and you're placed into Christ. You're not renovated. It's called new construction. You're reborn. You're a new person. And so really excited about that. We're kicking that off as a church. Church of the King. Yeah.
Now with Romans, we'll have one more. We only got about a minute left.
Yeah.
But what is one thing that gives us hope in that Bible study you're talking about in Romans? What's one of the things that gives us hope?
Yeah, I would say this. The gospel is a transformation reality. A lot of people, beginning of the year, new gym, I'm going to work out, I'm going to make better choices. Yeah, New Year's. Nothing wrong with that, but there's no power to change. What the book of Romans is, I culminate in Romans chapter 8. Paul in Romans 7, who can deliver us from this body of death? It's in Christ. He transforms us, and then he fills us with his Spirit. We're taken out of Adam, we're placed into Christ, and we're given the power to change. Let me tell you what the world needs right now. Not just a desire to change, but the power to change. And Christ changes our hearts. And he gives us the power to walk it out. So the book of Romans is the gospel. It's all about the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, and how we can walk in the power of Christ. And so I'm just excited about that. America and the world needs a pure, clear presentation of the gospel like never before. We're going to do that. Hope Again.
I love that. Hope again. And we need each other again. And I'm so glad you're talking about like the internet and the social media so people can tap into you. And just like here, we have the prayer lines. The prayer lines are always open. Here we're on the air for people to call in and pray. Because I think that's one thing that the pandemic tried to do is separate us all, isolate us all. And we need that hope again.
I'll tell you this. Listen, I appreciate the political process. I'm a American. I vote. But I got to tell you this. At the end of the day, you can't rally around anything other than the gospel.
Amen.
What unites us is Christ, his word, and his glorious gospel. That's what I'm excited about.
We'd have a lot more peace and a lot less arguing, for sure. I love that. Pastor, thank you so much for this. Thank you for your book, Simple Prayer, all going back to the Lord's Prayer. Pray like Jesus. How great. Thank you so much for this. You're so enthusiastic. I'm going to go to your website because you definitely uplift us all. Thank you again.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much.
it. Come back sometime. I really appreciate that. And now we are going to go back to some more wonderful music, over to the Tickling of the Ivories by Jeff Cleghorn, who is going to perform for us a beautiful classic, Silent Night, for your enjoyment. Enjoy. my God. Jeff, you make me wish I never gave up my piano lessons as a kid, but I have a feeling I would never be able to play like you do. That is such a gift from God. You have us all here in the studio just going like this, loving on you so much. Your CD, I can imagine everybody not wanting to take this home and enjoy you at home in the car. 'Tis the season. Jesus is the reason. JeffCleghorn.com. Pick up your CD. Keep the holiday spirit alive. Plus, he's got lots of other wonderful praise and glorious music on those beautiful tickling ivories. Jeff, thank you so much. What a blessing. Hope you will keep coming back time and time again with your talents and your gift. And you know what? You may be able to invite him to your church as well, and he can bless you all there. But I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This has been a wonderful episode, a wonderful segment, not only filled with Christmas music, but with guests that talking about the power of prayer, the power of us being together. And I want you to know that these prayer lines are still open. You can call in with praise reports and prayer requests at 770-300-9828. But we're not done with Jeff. Jeff is going to lead us out as I say Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Tune in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock Eastern, or online to Atlanta Live. And now, Jeff, take it away on the piano again with Come On, Ring Those Bells. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays.